Welcome everybody to Wednesday night's Thursday night Showdown preview for Ballers and Briefs.
Let's get
Wild week in
What up,
week
everybody?
5. Yes.
What it do?
Glad to see we already got a couple viewers with us on the show. So, I mean, is it the apocalypse, injured reserve apocalypse this week? I mean,
Lots of injuries, man. Significant
What are the
injuries.
chances of that many significant injuries in one
Game-changing injuries for Sundays.
One
That's for
weekend.
sure.
Yes.
Definitely starting with Justin Jefferson. So
I mean,
Man.
Yeah.
4
Justin
weeks.
Jefferson on the injured reserve for 4 weeks.
I'm taking that KJ Osborne pickup, probably number 1 on the waiver wire if he is out there by
It's-
chance.
yeah,
He's
him
probably
and
on
Adam.
someone's team, but I would take it. I'll be number 1.
He was actually available in quite a few leagues as I was looking earlier, because obviously a lot of
Wow.
people had already drafted Addison,
Yeah,
and he was actually available in quite a few. I think even actually in either one or both of the leagues that you and I were in for sure, and in the third league that I'm in, he was available on the waiver wire. But I mean, I trade scenarios have come out of the woodworks with people saying, should we trade Justin Jefferson? Because he's not available for 4 weeks. It's the earliest he can come back is like week 11 because their bye week is in week 10. So,
I mean, I'm gonna go out there and say I see a lot of people hyping KJ Osborne and his usage, but I think what's really gonna happen is it's gonna be more to Addison, more to Hawkinson, and more to Madison.
yeah.
I don't think Osborne's going to see. He might see an uptick, but I don't think it's going to be significant. I don't think they're going to rely on him heavy.
I feel like Kirk Cousins could get the short end of the stick on this deal. I
Yeah,
really do.
it'd be a Madison show for real.
Yeah, 100%.
as a fantasy owner of Addison, I mean, I would definitely hope to see some additional target share going to him, and I'm sure that that's definitely going to be in the plan work. And I agree with what Phil is saying. Is that I don't know necessarily how much KJ Osborne is going to see sort of on a season long, but potentially on a daily fantasy, there could be potential matchups where they're going to take away Addison then and going to take away Hawkinson. So thus opening up more opportunities, especially in the red zone for Osborne to get a little sneaky touchdown here and there.
He runs more of those deeper instead of intermediate routes. Like he's more of a more possession type wide receiver as opposed to the inside slot.
Addison beat
intermediate.
too, though, so it's kind of interesting. That's why I think it's really going to be a Hawkinson-Madison game because I agree. I think they're going to try to cut down Addison, but he's a deep threat. And so if Osborne's a deep threat, what does that mean? That means tight end underneath is going to be your short intermediate threat. And that's just going to be a lot of either dump offs to the running back or tight end.
I mean, going back to Addison, I know for sure, like in his time in college at Pitt before he was at USC, he made Kenny Pickett intermediate routes, slants, posts, those in-breaking routes. A lot of his stuff wasn't on the outside, especially when he was at Pitt. And then he moved to the Lincoln Riley offense at USC with Caleb Williams. And Addison is a great route runner, but I think he bases his play style is based on the style of the quarterback. And so I think in the offense. So if Kevin O'Connell can scheme him into the same way that they schemed Jetta, I think he's not nearly the receiver that Jetta is, but we also didn't think Jetta was going to be who he is coming out of LSU. We thought he was bargain basement Jamar Chase, but I think they're two different wide receivers, right? So I think it's all based on his quarterback play. So if quarterback plays there, Kirk Cousins deals. But I really do. I think, Phil, you're probably right with this is going to be TJ Hawkinson and the Alexander Madison and even that I saw last week. Cam Akers is starting to tick into Madison's carries because, and it didn't dawn on me until this week, and I think I heard it in the broadcast that O'Connell was with the Rams as an offensive coordinator when Cam Akers was the running back when they won the Super Bowl.
So it might be a lot of 2 running backs as with some dump offs to either one of them. Probably Cam Akers more with the pass catching than Madison.
Yeah. And then
that's what you're going to see.
A lot of Josh Oliver last week too.
Yeah, plus I think for some reason you're just going to see a high ownership of Osborne even on DFS because it's what I see everybody talking about.
It's going to be cheap.
And if everybody's going to be on him and I think he sucks, that's a good way for me to be like, I'm not going to be. And like Cody just said, Akers. How many people are going to be on Akers? Not. So that'll be your way to get different in that game.
Yeah, so that Jett is probably the biggest injury of this week. Or probably the next biggest one I could think of is Anthony Richardson. How many fantasy seasons did that just crush? For season long, for sure. I think it crushed a lot of people's because a lot of people that I've seen that had him, that were starting him perennially, were like in the top 3 of their league because of the points that he would score when he was in the game, but out possibility 4 to 8 weeks. That's taking it on the chin.
Yeah, he was probably their only hope too, and he can't stay healthy.
Unfortunately, he can't stay healthy.
Twice now.
And he did this a lot at Florida. Even though he managed to play a good deal of games his last year, he was almost always injured. And he was injured and missed a bunch of games his previous year at Florida. It's almost kind of not necessarily say typical, but definitely it's happened to him throughout his career. And it's definitely been a hinder to him. I hope that it sort of as his career progresses that it's not the same because you can see the talent is definitely there. But for some reason, he's just one of those guys who just constantly get injured.
Yeah. And I feel like a couple of them have been just flukes. It's just fluke type injuries where, as we know, like one of them was a concussion, and on the injury report of Phil Pistorio, that ain't an injury. So get your ass out there, rub some dirt on it, and go. Let's play. But this AC joint injury on the throwing shoulder, that's significant. And he had a cannon to begin with, so that just limits his game. I mean, I feel like when you're banging into people, he's a big guy and he likes to run the ball. So I think clanging and bang is not going to be his thing. He's going to be out a while. And
another thing to that, who was filling in for him when he had the concussion? Because they weren't doing that well.
It's Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, no. I think Colts is done. I think they know that they ain't done because he's not going to cut it neither, dude.
I mean, the only thing is I can see is how actually a full week or 4 weeks of game going forward. Shane Steichen has used Minshew. He was with Minshew last year in Philadelphia as offensive coordinator. He knows what Minshew's strengths and weaknesses are. I don't see them winning 4 out of 4. I don't even know if I see them winning 2 out of 4. I have a feeling that the Jags are going to beat them this week, but we'll see. But, I mean, stranger things have happened. Stranger things have really happened.
The Jags always struggle, though, with the Colts. I believe they
lost like the whole division
3 of the last 4. And I believe even as you kind of continue to go back, it's even worse of a record for the Jaguars. So that's definitely a tough matchup. This is a 3-2 versus a 3-2 team, records team. So, I mean, they have managed to win games already early in the season. So I wouldn't necessarily count them out. From the times that I've watched Minshew, he's about as good of a game manager, if you want to kind of apply a sort of a label to the quarterback, as you're going to be able to find in the NFL. Where he can come off the bench or sort of prepare for a week and, get his Joshua Dobbs on a little bit. He can find a way to get you a W during that week. And they actually have a pretty overall solid team, a pretty solid front seven on the defensive side that helps keep them in games as well, outside of what they're doing on the offensive side. So I'm definitely interested to see how they match up this week and kind of moving forward. But I mean, I think the owner would probably want them to tank a little bit to get a better pick, but we'll see what the players want to do.
I mean, they got Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor worked. I saw this thing today that Jonathan Taylor destroyed the Colts without destroying the team. So basically, he got his money, and he trashed them the whole way, and so now everything's good to go. They're all happy married family again.
But boost his output too for DFS. Now that Anthony Richardson's gone, because Richardson was a vulture to his running touchdown. So now if you want to play Jonathan Taylor, I recommend it. Last week I didn't. I think it was.
I still don't put like 100% guarantee that Jonathan Taylor is going to take all the touches. I know last week he was getting weaned back in, but it seems to me that Zach Moss has put his stamp on this offense.
They paid him too much.
Oh, I know. They gave him
I kind of agree with Brad. I think it's going to fall back to how it used to be. Zach Moss will get them catches sometimes, like 3 a game, but he's not going to be getting like what we just saw last week. I mean, I think you're right though. He's earned it, but like he said, they paid him too much. They weren't going to pay him if they had a plan to use Moss. They paid him because they don't want to use Moss. It's time to put JT back in there and let JT do JT things. I think this week they're going to lean heavy on him because they don't have
heavy. Yep.
I don't know if it's successful, but
fantasy perspective, if you did want to throw in Moss, just like you said though, Cody, with that the pass catching ability from a fantasy perspective, there still could be enough catches there to make for a solid fantasy game. But as far as for overall usage, I just don't see, given the new contract, they're going to run that horse dry. I just see 80-20. I mean, they just going to work in and then kick him to the pasture afterwards. You pay him that money. So this is my thoughts.
Yeah, why pay him, you know?
I agree. It's probably going to be that way. It's just that we did see how when Nyheim Hines was still there,
true,
we did see that Nyheim Hines type effect. Now, I'm going to say, obviously, the Bills thought the same reason. Zach Moss is not Nyheim Hines and vice versa, right? But we do know that the Colts have the reputation of having a number one like JT and then having that vulture running back too that steals their carries. So I'm not saying, obviously, like we've said, you drafted JT, had him on injury reserve. You got to put him in your offense. You got to play him for DFS purposes. I'm just saying limit until we are proven, till it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. You have to limit your expectation for him until he's fully. Now he comes out this week and it's 95% of the carries. I think that's pretty much dead and buried. But until we see that,
I agree.
There's no freaking way that I'm gonna just ride high because he's probably still super expensive.
Yeah, I wouldn't go all in on him either. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure the price tag from a fantasy, right, Phil, is it pretty high?
I mean, not really.
Taylor?
I mean, he's 6,600 and Zach Moss is 6,200, so you got to pick one of them. But like against Jags, it might not be the best time to do it. Jags defense kind of been looking a little good lately. I stand by my word that Trevor Lawrence doesn't look good, but I don't know. I think Cody's right. If you want to wait and see, this might be the week to wait and see if he gets back to his normal workload, and then
I'll be the first to say he comes out and burns me and fries me. I'll be the first person to say, hey, I shouldn't have said that, but this is just a very like Alvin Kamara last week. I thought he was going to be weaned into the offense, and he came out and he produced. He didn't rock it. I mean, but he lived up to the expectation that we've seen Alvin Kamara do before, and I don't know if that was just because the Patriots are just dog. But
I don't think he'll ever lock it like he used to because of the way we use Taysom Hill. Yeah, and that's why I make it so hard to play Alvin Kamara in DFS. I mean, you got him in season long, and you got to play him. I mean, it's Alvin Kamara, but for those reasons, I don't think you ever just go hard on Alvin Kamara on DFS. You got to
See
worry
that-
about
that way with a
Jason
lot
Hill
of running backs,
vulturing. And then, like, Carr playing injured and getting hurt. Then they bring Winston in, and Winston's a direct counter to Kamara as well. We've learned that last year that he barely gives him the ball. He takes all the runs and takes the rushing touchdown. So that's a no-go for me, as usual. I think he did good, but I don't think he broke the slate, and I don't think he was in the optimal.
Well, hanging on the whole running back injury, Devon Achane.
A-Chain.
He
go.
is another injured reserve
I like
destiny.
I like this. We finally know who the fuck's running the ball in Miami. It's going back to Mostert, and I
Do we,
can't be
though?
happier.
Do we?
Are you?
Savon Ahmed is coming back, but he's probably limited, and I think Mostert will put up the exact same numbers as A-Chain these last weeks, and they didn't know who to play, so just playing them both.
I don't. Well, I'm not worried about Ahmed. I'm worried about Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson, I'm not worried about him either.
I am, for the simple fact of the matter is, now this is I'm taking this from a season long roundabout perspective.
What
Now,
injury is Wilson coming back from?
He's coming back
Coming
limitedly.
back from
It's a hip. It's a hip
Hip?
injury. Yes.
There's a potential that he returns from IR this week. It's not even like clarified yet. It might have been clarified now since my last injury update.
Okay.
But it's potential. For me, it doesn't sound like I'm coming back in on a production snap count. It sounds like a very limited one if you do come back.
Well, it was a rib.
That
Ribs.
hip- that
Actually, now it's changed. It was a hip. Now it's ribs. It was ribs and finger, which I thought it was a hip. But
Dude,
Rib
So-
and finger.
so
Okay.
he was
I'm
designated.
I mean,
He was designated to
finger,
return
you
from
can't hold the
IR.
ball.
He's designated to return from IR. I'm just saying, if you have him or if you don't, he's a stash play right now. For the simple fact of the matter is because we've seen him take the bulk of the carries from Raheem Mostert in Miami and in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we all do know that Raheem Mostert does have an injury history himself. So if you have Jeff Wilson, he's a stash play for now. But I'm going to go on record and say that I do think he outdoes Mostert at least once this season, just for the simple fact of the matter, I have seen it before until Achane comes back. I think Ahmed is probably down because I saw another guy, Brooks, maybe was another
Brooks.
name that showed up.
Brooks. Yeah, but I mean, this is a game where you
Kennedy
actually wanna-
Brooks from
Chris Brooks.
from Oklahoma.
Chris Brooks.
Brooks.
is his name, I
Chris
think.
Brooks. Oh,
You
okay.
want to play a running back in this game. I mean, Carolina's run defense is atrocious, and Miami has been bussing with running. So you definitely want to play one. I'm going to go Mostert with.
Oh, I 100%. But what I'm saying is don't, and like we say, if you want to get super out there, crazy, wild and western. Jeff Wilson is off the IR. He's available, and you can play him
this week.
This could go back to like I just said with Jonathan Taylor, the wait and see kind of thing. But I'm just saying that it could be one of those things, one of those things we've seen before. Now, continuing also along the running back injuries, James Conner, another number one that a lot of people were depending on. That Arizona running back room is not really fully decided. I did see that
DeMarcado was Houston.
Mercado out of TCU, the undrafted rookie, is going to be the number one, maybe. But I also saw today Adam Schefter reported that Keontae Ingram is technically number one on the depth chart, but he's still questionable. So I'm like, what the hell is that? So I need more clarification. I did pick up DeMarcado in season-long fantasy because I just feel like he's going to be there. His skill set, I like better than Ingram. I've seen Ingram before. It ain't it. So
I like DeMarcado.
Yeah.
He played good. And he rushed 45% of the week last week, and he got a 10% target share. So But I do see where Keontae Ingram might be a problem. So definitely want to follow that news and figure out what's going on in that backfield.
Find out if Ingram comes
do
off the
anything.
questionable tag. I don't know if I trust it yet. It may be also a wait and see kind of thing. I don't know. We just know that Connor's out for a while. And then finally
with the lack of Connor, I just think that they might give more of those dump off screen type plays to the receivers to substitute for what they were going to try to do on the ground game. So maybe potentially this is better for a Marquise Brown types, sort of those shorter, shiftier players who can catch the ball and do something in space. I would stay away from the running back group. Just wait and see this week, and it'll give you a little bit more clarity moving forward. But I would just again stay away from that. Maybe even flex and play. Maybe even a Zach Ertz, I believe.
I did see an uptick in his projections, his projected points.
As that sort of safety valve type player with Arizona. But as far as for the running backs, I just wouldn't. I just don't trust any of it. I mean, there could be something there to DeMarcado catching potentially passes out of the backfield. But besides that, I'm not sure.
Another running back out too, Khalil Herbert. I think that's an easier backfield to mess with, but I stay away from running backs on Chicago because of Fields. And Fields has the last 2 weeks shown that he might be playing like the Fields he was last year. So
I think Fields found his groove.
Yeah. So
the offensive coordinator got his head out of his what, so then figured out just let Fields run the ball and let him dink and dump.
Do what he wants to do.
Get the ball to DJ Moore.
I mean,
I will say that
I was just gonna say who the running back was. It's coming in. It's Roschon Johnson. I think he's good for what it's worth, but it's Justin Fields.
Pay attention to Foreman.
Yeah, and go ahead, Brad.
I was gonna say that I did have Herbert in my my season long. I believe that was on the 10-man side, and there were a couple of games so far this year where he did have some fairly good numbers, even with the sort of moving quarterback with Justin Fields. So there may be potential that if not Roschon Johnson, but even maybe Deontay Foreman snuffs out a 1-yard touchdown here and there on the sneak play, but 1-yard goal line touchdown. But there could potentially again be some room for some still value. I believe also there was one instance where one of the maybe not the Millie Maker, but I believe a guy who ended up winning, I believe 325 in the daily, had Justin Fields with Herbert. I believe that was the week when Cole Kmet went off as well, and DJ Moore. But he had all of them. And so again, there are, and Herbert did have a good game as well. So again, there's still opportunities out there for the running back.
Just pay attention to that, because I just looked now that that Johnson and Travis Homer, the two running backs, did not practice today, and because Johnson's coming off of Phil's favorite injury, concussion, and Homer's coming off of a hammy. So that leaves Foreman, Darrington Evans, and the fullback Kyrie Blasingame, who took the bulk of the carries after everybody and their mom went down the other night. So, I mean, put a fullback in the backfield and just let him
Well, the good news is it's Wednesday, and we'll have a podcast Saturday before the main slate. So
before we know. So
all this,
know more about that.
Talk about the games that we want to favorite and the players we want to favorite by then, because like you're saying, a lot of this news could change based on these injuries, updates of who's being brought up from practice squads, and who's being slid into number one on the depth chart, all that. Does that conclude those injuries? If it does, we can move into tomorrow's game.
So that the majority of the ones that I could think of, only other couple things I wanted to talk about was George Kittle, 3 touchdowns in a game against Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, sir.
Defense. And I loved his shirt. I hope he doesn't get fined, but I think he's going to get fined.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, literally, he was like, it's a throwback to a shirt from like the 90s that one of the old 49ers wore when they played against the Cowboys.
That's awesome.
I love Kittle. Kittle's the man. I loved seeing Dallas get dogged like that. I'm probably gonna lose a lot of subscriptions this way, but whatever. Everybody knows I'm not a Dallas fan. I really don't like Dallas. And
we get more subscribers for hating on Dallas, dude.
I don't mind Dallas. I just didn't think that the matchup would be so lopsided. Actually, I thought that one might go back and forth a little bit. Just given both defenses are really good, take out the offensive side. I think San Francisco really sort of separated themselves in the league as far as for sort of that team. Because there's not a lot of holes that you can kind of poke at and say each week, hey, look, this is what we're going to do to beat this team. And so from that perspective, again, just from an overall football perspective, wow.
The Dallas secondary does not look worth a crap without Trayvon Diggs.
I mean, the line was -3.5 for San Francisco, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, damn, that half a point is throwing me off. I don't know what to do, so I didn't bet. And then they blow them out by like 40, and I was like, why didn't I bet?
And Trent Williams showed me that he is worth every dollar that they pay him. Every dollar. He made Micah Parsons disappear. Literally, he was there. I felt like they were showing him on the sideline, and he was either huffing or puffing, or when they would line him up in the middle, and what Kyle Shanahan would do, he would scheme away from him, and then when he would try to put him back on the outside, he was like, I don't want none of Trent Williams. Trent Williams was just making him look like
Trent Williams is a grown man.
He's a regular old guy.
Man.
Trent Williams is a grown man.
20-year-old kids coming out of college, a grown-ass man.
A grown man. You're not going to be able to do nothing with him.
You can't. I say the same thing, dude.
There's no finesse move that's going to work because if he get his hands on you, it's over. It's over. And you could see it every single time. Parsons was trying to slap his hands, couldn't do that. Once he got his hands on him, it was just a man
like Trent Williams out there the size of the Big Show, like going against freaking Rey Mysterio size guy like Micah Parsons. He makes Micah Parsons look like a normal person.
Man,
normal. But I say it all the time, and that was funny you said that. I see these dudes out there, and I'm like, first round draft pick. I'm like, that's a grown ass fucking man right there, dude. Like this dude looks 45. Like what happened?
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is, man. It's a grown ass man out there shutting shit down. It's wild.
And so I'm going to take the lumps. I know I'm going to take the lumps for everybody. We let Joe Burrow and his fake ass calf injury shit all over us.
Yeah, I was wrong about that.
Jamar Chase did say that he's always literally, quote, I quote, I'm always fucking open, and he showed it. Maybe that was because T. Higgins wasn't out there, and maybe that makes things different. That could be like, okay, we don't need you, T. Higgins. We're gonna move off of you, bro.
I mean, I could have been more wrong about that game, but or it's just shit
over 50 points.
All season he hasn't got anywhere near that value for his price tag, and then he just shuts the whole value down last week.
Hey, I literally was thinking about trading him.
Destroyed me.
Number one receiver.
Yeah, I didn't have him in anything because I faded him completely. I was like, everybody's going all over him again. He's high owned for no reason. He's gonna shit the bed, and he popped off. So I was wrong about that.
He was my cash cow. Cash is king. I rode with him even though Phil told me not to. I went against the grain. I had him in leagues.
You got different.
Long.
I wouldn't even say it was different. That was what everybody was doing.
I had him in season long. I was like, I'm gonna ride or die with this dude. He's high owned, and he was like only 7,600. He was cheap, so let's do it. And then what's he do? Breaks the catch record for Cincinnati. I mean,
also in my defense, the reason I was off of that is because they were playing 100% of their snaps out of the shotgun because Joe Burrow was injured. And it looked like that all changed. He was no longer injured. He was playing. He was fucking running, breaking tackles. I'm like, who's this Joe Burrow? Where has he been? I mean, in my defense, that was not the Joe Burrow we saw the first 4 weeks of the season.
No.
My guess is he's not injured anymore, and now we can expect to see normal Bengals games out of Burrow and Chase. Look dude.
We got an unexpected guest. We got an unexpected guest.
But, I was also wrong about Devontae Smith, my lock of the week. I was right that it should have been his pop-off game, but they just did not go to him. I don't know why.
I mean, Brad did call Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is money. He's money. He was in the millie. Money.
Not optimal. He was not optimal.
Yeah, I think Thielen he's doing what he kind of did before Justin Jefferson kind of became Justin Jefferson in the Vikings. And if he gets the targets, he's going to give you the production every week. It's almost like money in the bank.
He's the best safety valve in the league.
I actually have him starting where I had him on the bench, but the last couple of weeks, of course, with Mike Evans out, I had to start him anyways. But I think I'm going to continue to even go with him, even though technically he's projected less if Mike Evans plays. But I just want to ride that hot hand and continue to run with it.
I feel like Bryce has done found who he likes to throw the ball to. And Frank Reich, Frank Reich's going to scheme him. Frank Reich does that.
I'll come to the altar, though, on my stardom picks, definitely on my quarterback. J Love kind of crapped the bed on me. I'm sorry to the people out there. I saw the matchup going a little bit differently, just given the defense what they've given up in the past, and just liking the matchups from the receiver to the cornerback positions. But it just seemed like he was just off. It's just one of those games. But I do believe in J Love kind of moving forward. I think it was 2 games again before he's throwing 3+ touchdowns. I see the production coming back. It just, again, that was an off one, but it happened.
I mean, we finally got a couple things wrong. We've been killing it all season, but another thing, I don't know if
I'm wrong when I'm wrong.
We did tell you to play. We did tell you to play HN. We did tell you to play Monty, and both of those guys showed up in the milli optimal.
I did call something else, but I did it in the Facebook group. I called for you to temper your expectations on Devontae Adams because Jair Alexander was coming back, and Devontae Adams did not produce. I don't know if it was all.
I don't think it was a lot because I noticed after you said that and we talked about it. Like I said, Jair Alexander, he doesn't trail. I never see him trail on each side of the field, which was stupid to me. He plays one side.
Only play one side.
His strength is one side.
Yes, so he would never trail Devontae Adams. This problem was not Jair Alexander, Devontae Adams. This was Josh McDaniels not telling Jimmy G, force the damn best receiver on the team the ball.
I don't think he could, man. I think it was lockdown coverage. It was the presence of Jair Alexander locking down that side of the field. It just creates confusion. I saw him
throwing the ball. I saw him throwing the ball to go Jacoby Myers against Jair Alexander, and that's what was. But
if you watch those catches, they were Jacoby making the play. It was not a wide open pass or a good pass. It was Jacoby making the play. It was high and out of reach, barely catchable, or he lands out of bounds. It's right on the sidelines. It was nothing to where, this guy is open. Like you're used to seeing from Devontae Adams, this guy is open. He's not going to be when there's lockdown coverage, and Jay Alexander is lockdown coverage. I think he's probably the best corner in the NFL. And when he's on the field and you're playing against the slowest pace offense, which is Green Bay, you've got to take that into consideration, the way offenses are going to move. I mean, Green Bay's not going to be scoring a lot, so they're also not going to be airing the ball out a lot. I mean, I made my captains both running backs, A.J. Dillon and Josh Jacobs, in that I didn't do bad. I also didn't win. I won money, but I didn't
pull a Brad and go to the altar and say that I tempered my expectations of A.J. Dillon because I didn't think it was going to – I really thought that game was going to be kind of like what Brad said, more of a better matchup for Green Bay. It was going to be a little bit more of a horse race. That's why I put my stock in a low-money, low-cost Patrick Taylor. He was out there quite a bit, but a couple of those times that Love would throw in the ball, he would drop it, or Love wouldn't find him. He would be wide open. And I don't know if that was the security thing, but then A.J. Dillon started as Peyton Manning, and the Manning cast would say running the ball downhill. It was just running the ball downhill. And that defensive line, if you take Max Crosby out, the defensive line is not that great. So you got to run the ball to keep Max Crosby from getting in the backfield. So that was what was doing it. Like I said, I'll go on a limb and say that was my bad. I should have played A.J. Dillon, and I should have not. I got tripped up thinking that Romeo Doubs is the number one, Christian Watson, or Jordan, or he was just the fact that he could separate where Romeo Doubs was not separating, also dropping passes. There was a lot of drop passes.
I told Cody Romeo Doubs was not the number one there, and he went against me on that one too, but he was right with one of his calls.
You've been saying that weekly on Romeo too about the lack of production.
We think all right, but we have already this season have 2 first place wins, one from me and one from Cody. So what we are doing,
somebody almost win a millie. So we're
somebody that almost win a millie. So what we talk about in here is definitely helpful and hopefully producing positive numbers for everybody. You're not gonna win them all. You're not gonna. If I knew it was gonna happen every week, I would be a billionaire because I would take down the million every week. I was kind of
getting tidbits here and there from other people that are viewing us after the fact, or coming and setting in, or asking us questions in a Facebook, that they're winning their leagues, or they're going out on their own and playing FanDuel, and they're taking our advice. And then I've even heard some people take some of our advice, and try to take some of those numbers and overs and unders and projection wise and win at Prize Picks. I've even had people tell us, "Hey, I watched your show, but I like to do Prize Picks," and I went out and just picked who you just said and used them as the over, and then that kind of ends up playing into my hand. So if you guys got questions and it's something like, "Hey, do you think it's going to be an over and under?" especially on Saturday, if you're like putting in Prize Pick plays or stuff like that, don't be afraid to ask, because it's something that kind of can play into what we're looking at projection wise, because it may be a prop on there may be different than what we see. So like we see a ceiling projection of somebody that's like 32 points and their over and under is 35. There you go, right? So their prop's going to look a little bit different than what the actual projection is, that what we can see when we do the research. So that's a question, types of questions that you can ask. So, but I think that kind of pops us into what we all came here to talk about. Taylor Swift, right? No, I'm just kidding. Taylor Swift versus Ciara? Taylor Swift versus Ciara?
I think she's calling it Tavis now. It's hashtag Tavis. It's Taylor Swift and Travis. Yeah, I think it's Tavis. It's hashtag Tavis because that's what she was tweeting out when she was trying to get her Swifties to put a ban on turf fields on the NFL. She hashtagged it Tavis. So Taylor Swift and Travis, they've already got a little nickname together, dude. But I think her Tavis is a little banged up coming into this game, a little ankle injury. He didn't score a touchdown after that injury, but Travis Kelce's like a volume guy. That's why we love him on DraftKings, because the points per reception, and he gets a lot of volume. Is he going to be able to get a lot of volume with an ankle injury? Is he going to be able to get open? In other words, that's a tough one to answer. I don't know the answer to. So what I'll probably do in regards to Travis Kelce in this game is I'll probably try to stay at ownership level, like where he's owned at. If he's going to be 20% owned, then I'll have 20% of him. He's not going to be my make or break guy going into this game. I think the make or break guy in this game is going to be one of these oddball receivers on Kansas City, because there's so many of them, and it's not a team where you're like, oh, Devontae Adams, he's getting the ball. It's not a team like that at all. Is it Rashee Rice? Is it Sky Moore? Is it Kadarius Toney? Is it Justin Watson? Is it Noah Gray? All these people have
Noah Gray. I feel like Noah Gray is starting to see more.
It's tough.
He's starting to
That
That
spend
was the
way
one
more
who I
than what
was
we thought.
immediately thinking of. I know Noah Gray came through. I think it was a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
As well, where we were talking about this sort of
called
same
it.
scenario.
Yeah.
I believe
We called
Kelsey
the
was
great
hurt,
touchdown.
and we said, "Hey, go to Noah Gray here," because their third tight end isn't really as I think into the
Blake
sort
Bell.
of
He's
the.
probably just a blocker.
He's
right?
not really been sort of anything this year. So definitely though, Gray, I'm feeling, and I'm also looking in more at Rasheed Rice this week. I saw him still getting some continued targets each week, and sort of if I had to kind
Noah
of
Gray's
pinpoint
cost is
who
Noah
I
Gray's
think,
cost is up there. He's about 4,000
Well,
more than what he's been in the
yeah,
last couple
yeah.
games, right? Like that
Yeah, I
game where
figured
he
that
went
would go
off.
up.
I think it was like
People would think that.
$400. He's like $4,400 now.
3,300, I think.
Wow, what a
3,300.
difference
Is that
in
what you
change.
said?
Well, that's maybe I'm looking at the captain number. I'm looking at the captain number. Sorry.
Okay.
No, is that the
Um,
cap? No,
No, he is
That's-
4,400.
4,400. Yeah.
Yeah, he is 4,400. Something else I'm looking at has it wrong. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Rasheed Rice, he gets like 4 or 5 targets a game, and he's dirt cheap, and he's not supposed to be a wide receiver 1 for this team, but he fucking looks like he is. So then you got Kadarius Toney coming back, getting his
falling.
getting number 1 targets.
I mean, he's only 4,000, so is he your turd? I mean, he's a number 1. You can't get cheaper for a
I
technically.
think whoever
number.
gets that right, that receiver is going to win the millie. And
Yeah.
it's who gets it right, because it's so hard. No one knows. To be honest, I want to get a lot of exposure to Justin Watson. I want to get a lot of exposure to Kadarius Toney. I want to get a lot of exposure to the Rice. Do I want them all in the same lineup? I don't know. But I do want to pair Mahomes with 2 pass catchers, whether that's Kelsey in one of them or 2 of them and no Kelsey. Pat Mahomes will get it done at his price with 2 receivers, not 1. So if you're making a lineup, you've got to have these 2 receivers. Well, probably fans.
And you got to figure out which running back is going to cook for Kansas City at that point in time. Because I like Pacheco. I like Pacheco as much as the next guy.
Looking like a god tier game for Pacheco. I'm not gonna lie.
For 9,400, I'm saying that Pacheco, it ain't one of those things where if you could get like Phil just said, and this ends up being like one of those 5-1 Kansas City to Denver type games, which I hope it's not. But if you could get substitute another running back as a pass catcher, like a Jet McKinnon, or even we've seen this freaking Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who has been the bane of my existence this season.
I was gonna say last Showdown, you were like, why is Clyde Edwards-Helaire out there? He was out there taking the bulk of the carries.
Yes,
Don't know
and that's
why.
the thing, and that's the thing. Like if you can, you have your Isaiah Pacheco's coming at 9,400 in the flex, and I actually finally have the numbers up for once.
Like 50% owned, dude. It's like a god tier game for him, and people recognize it because Brees Hall punished the Broncos, and so did Mostert and A-Chain, and so they're thinking Isaiah Pacheco's going to do the same. But that takes me to tell everybody this is a division rivalry, man, and they play against each other tough. And I would not expect this to be, like Cody was saying, a 5-1 onslaught on your matches. To be honest, I think you get different here if you run 4 Broncos and 2 Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's also a way to get different, and you get the right receiver. If you run 4 Broncos and 2 Chiefs, and one of those Chiefs is like Rasheed Rice, and he's the right one, I think you win a lot of money this week.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying I wasn't advocating for that. I was just saying.
What would be the stack, fellas? So what's the optimal or the
ideal is 3-3. The ideal, the biggest one is 3-3, but the second biggest one is 4-2 Broncos. 4 Broncos, 2 Chiefs. So it's got you wondering, but I will say this, it's rarely that a Bronco is the captain. and it's more
Okay.
likely that their opponents in 25 games is majority the opponent. So that's shining Kansas City Chiefs. So maybe your captain is like Rashee Rice, and you pair him with Mahomes, and then you have 4 Broncos. You take down the Millie.
Yep.
So something I was saying is I got the injury report up right now. With regards to defense for the Denver Broncos, Frank Clark, which would have been a revenge game for him, so that would have been great, but he's not there. Baron Browning, both linebackers. DJ Jones, the defensive tackle, he is out. And then Mike Purcell, Justin Simmons, and Justin Stranad, they were all limited in practice today. So pay attention to where the defense is going. Like literally, like obviously this is a division rivalry, but this could be just no defense versus some defense, right? And then on the offensive side of the ball, Javonte Williams did practice fully today, and his Q tag did fall off. Somebody that still has a Q tag but could be activated off of injury reserve tomorrow, Greg Dulcich. He's not in the numbers for what we're seeing, but
I think he's playing.
I do think they did open his 21-day practice window, and he did practice fully today. So he is an actual receiving threat at tight end. I don't know.
Then I know that fucking dude is MIA
Your
on
boy.
the field.
Cody's boy.
I know he got me 0 points like 2 weeks ago.
Troutman?
Yeah. I know he got some points last week, but like 2 weeks ago he got me 0.
That's Tom Payton's boy. Yeah, like literally thought he would have been like somebody that was going to eat for them because he knew his offense from New Orleans.
He's also
Do you like Troutman versus Kansas City?
No, I'll never play him again. I'll never.
Okay.
He owe me 0% in my lines because he got me a 0. Take that what you will. He might do good, but I have bias against him. If you get me a 0 when I play you, I'll never play you again. You got me 0. But I do think an interesting takeaway was Samaje Perine was not the bulk running back. Instead, it was Jaleel McLaughlin, and he was fucking busting heads and scoring touchdowns. So I keep an eye on him. Even with Javonte Williams coming back, it might be a good game to get some exposure to McLaughlin instead of Perine. Because it looks like, it doesn't look like, but it is. Statistically, McLaughlin had 40% of the rushes, and Samaje only had 27%.
Yeah, and Javonte and McLaughlin are only 200 points or $200 different. So it's 7,200 for Javonte, and then McLaughlin's only 7,000. So there's your little tidbit, and then you have Samaje down here at 5,000, which projections between the three of them are roughly about 2.5 to 3 points difference between the three. So take that as you will and figure out you got to figure out which running back is your problem. You figure out which running back's going to do for Denver, and then which wide receiver is going to get the ball for Kansas City. So that's your Rubik's cube you got to figure out. So
it's a game.
I'm wondering if Mims get open tomorrow for Russ. Just kind of thinking about coming back with sort of 4 Broncos players. Mims is high owned. Mims is high owned. Okay, because
22%. But I'm saying like it's because of his cost.
Damn, he's a third ISO player. I mean,
oh wow, okay.
Judy,
he wouldn't be as high owned. Just given the matchups.
So this tells you even more. Like Jerry Judy's the number one
secondary
with the Kansas City. So
yeah, and Russ has the ability to scramble and kind of improvise.
That reminds me of somebody, Justin Ross. Everybody thought season 1 he was going to be the show-out star for Kansas City. He hasn't done shit. He let everybody down. I think he was in everybody's cash lineups at least on week 1 because he came in high-owned and low. Last week, I think he got some catches, like 4 catches on 6 targets. Like, does that mean we're going to see a lot of him? If it does, he is coming in at the second lowest owned receiver tomorrow. It could be him. It could be a Pat Mahomes captain with Justin Ross and 4 Broncos. I think this is a game where you cannot do it. I'm gonna say it again. I said it before. It's not a game where you can do one lineup and be like, "All right, guys, I didn't win any money. That's your own damn fault." Nobody knows which one of these receivers or any of these receivers are going to shine tomorrow because they haven't been doing what they were supposed to be doing, number one. But then number two, the ball's been being spread around in Kansas City so much that there's no way you would know. So you have to get exposure to them, and the only way to do that is have multiple lineups. This is like a 150 max type game, or, at bare minimum, a 20 max, type game. If you're going to do one entry, make sure it's a single entry contest where everybody in there only has one lineup and everybody's taking that one guess who the fucking receiver is going to be. I would not put one lineup in the Millie Maker. I'm probably not going to play in the Millie Maker for that purpose because I'm not going to be putting in 150 lineups in the Millie Maker. So at $20 a pop, that's like $3,000 on a game where I have no idea who the fuck,
I'm gonna pull it up. Let's pull it up. Let's go. All these subscribers, let's pull it up. We'll put 150 lineups on there and split the Millie.
And that's the problem. There's gonna be a lot of pros doing that, and if you fucking tie, now you're only making like $3,000 or $4,000. If that, you're making your money back. You have a chance at losing money mass entering this type of contest because might end up with the same lineup as so many people who did it. So for that purpose, max entry tournaments only or single entry tournaments. If you're maxing the tournament, you have to max it.
Yeah, and then get in your single entry cash tournaments. So if you're doing cash, play the single entry ones only, not the 20 max on those. These are for DraftKings. Now, FanDuel plays a little bit different. They're not as they don't have the all the time single entry double up cashes. You have to do a little bit harder digging to get into those. And in your mass entries, most of the time, in my experience, and I don't know about Phil's, but I know in my experience, I'm winning anything in FanDuel, and especially in a mass entry, I'm splitting with about 40 people because we have the same lineup, because a lot of people tend to play towards those cash type higher owned players because we know they're going to score the touchdowns because of the half PPR style. They're getting the catches, but you want guys that are going to catch the ball and get in the end zone, not just guys that are going to get volumes of catches. Unless it's a game where nobody actually gets in the freaking end zone and it's just like one touchdown, and you have one guy that scored a touchdown, or kickers that are kicking the ball the whole time.
It could be that on DraftKings as well. Like I said earlier, these two teams play against each other tough, kind of slow. Could be a defensive running back, kicker, tight end type lineup. You got kickers from both teams. You got defense from one of them. And then you got some running backs in there and some tight ends. And it's just
a couple thoughts 17 to 13 game. A couple thoughts I had about this game. Something I sent to you guys earlier, trade rumors. So we're coming up on the October Halloween NFL trade deadline. There's a couple guys on this game. I know Phil likes to talk about this. Highlight type games. Either they're going to be a dud or a stud, right? So like we're trotting somebody out here trying to drum up. Denver is doggy shit.
For trade purposes.
We need to build draft capital. We need to get somebody in here. Sean Payton wants to build his team around guys that he knows that he brought in from the outside or he drafted, right? So Cortland Sutton is on the block, supposedly. So there's rumors that he could be dealt somewhere close to the trade deadline. So have thoughts about that.
If that's true, you want to get a lot of him because Showdown games teams absolutely advertise for trade.
I mean, he's already 33.6% owned. But like Brad was saying, this defense in Kansas City is susceptible to the pass. So if Russ is out here being Russ and Russ is cooking, don't don't shy away from Sutton, especially if you're using the 20 max. If you're in a 20 max or 150 max, get exposure. Get lots of exposure to him. Not saying don't be overexposed to him, but at the simple fact of the matter is, guys like that they're trying to make sure that they can flip at the deadline, those guys are the guys that tend to eat. And it's weird.
He's also healthy this game. He hasn't been very healthy this season, so you're getting a healthy Cortland Sutton here. It could be a Sutton game for sure. What I don't know, maybe you know, Cody, in the past, is it possible for Judy and Sutton to eat in the same game, or is it one or the other?
Trying to think.
I don't recall them both having really good statistics.
Because what's funny is I haven't seen them in my recollection. It always seems to be one in the time that Jerry Jeudy has been in Denver. One, they've had horrible quarterback play, and one of the two of them are hurt. Correct. I don't think I've ever seen a full game a great amount of games with the two of them at 100% or even on the field at the same time, because it always seemed to be Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick. You know what I'm saying? No Tim Patrick. Yeah. So there's no third wheel. It seems to be the third wheel seems to be coming in Mims and that Brandon Johnson. Is it Brandon Johnson? Is that his name? Brandon Johnson. So this Brandon Johnson kid kind of seems to be getting a hefty amount of
He's on the field 50% of the snaps. So
exactly what I'm saying. Wow. And even though this is Sean Payton's team, but we've seen three different coaches in 3 different years, right? And I think this is Judy's like 3rd or 4th year in the league. I can't remember exactly. Maybe the 3rd. And I just never seen a high body of volume with the both of them on the field at the same time. So my answer to the question would be, I don't think so. I haven't seen a spot where they both eat at the same time.
I'll put it this way. If they both eat, or if 2 wide receivers from Denver eat, there's no way that Russell Wilson is not in the optimal. And if you end up with 2 of Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton in any lineup, you better have Russell Wilson in that same lineup, because it's not possible for them to both pop off and Russell Wilson not be popping off with them. In fact, in that situation, Russell Wilson might have to be your captain. You might have to be getting that 1.5 from Russell Wilson. I don't think it's out of the question to say whether or not Russell Wilson can be the captain in the optimal, but history will tell us that he's only been the captain 1 time in 25 games. What? That's Denver's quarterback. That's not Russell Wilson. How long has Russell Wilson been there? Not all 25 of those games. So,
not even a full. I wouldn't say he's been there a season. But last season was
correct. So that information skewed. You might want to look at Seattle's quarterback analysis and see how many times the quarterback was in the optimal. I think it'd be more than just 1 time.
Quite a few times, I would think. But just a quick stat on Cortland Sutton. He's 23 catches for 367 yards in 7 games against the Chiefs. No TDs. And that was with, like I just said, pretty mediocre at best quarterback play. The Brett Rippons of the world.
What'd you say the other day? You had told me George Kittle had not had a touchdown yet or something, and that he was due, and then he gets 3 of them.
Brad said that. Yes, Brad said he was due. He was due for a good week.
So if Cortland Sutton hasn't had a touchdown against Kansas City, it sounds like he's due. He's healthy coming in. He's lower owned than Jeudy, I believe.
And Jeudy has 24 catches for 243 yards and 3 touchdowns in 6 games against the Chiefs.
Damn, it sounded like Russell Wilson, sneaky deaky, captain slot.
It's funny that you just asked how long they've been together. Judy's had 6 games against the Chiefs, and Cortland's been 7 games against the Chiefs. So Jeudy started his first game in 2020 against.
There's also some shit plays there, just like Kansas City. You got Marvin Mims, Brandon Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Adam Trotman, and Dolchik if he plays, maybe even Manhurts. I think you're going to have to get exposure to all these people just at a percent. Yeah, how many lineups do you want Marvin Mims in? You know, if you're doing 20, maybe 2 lineups. If you're doing 150, you know, maybe 10 lineups. I don't know how you want to base your exposures, but I think you have to get exposure to them. You can't just focus all on Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy because that's what everybody's going to be doing when they're playing Broncos players. They're going to be playing Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. So I still think you have to get the Kansas City Chiefs player right. So you could have like a Rashee Rice captain, Pat Mahomes, bring it back with Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton. If that works, I'm not sure. I haven't ran any numbers. You might not be able to fit that. But if it's possible, that's where you go to. And then you throw in like a cheap-ass Manhurts.
Here's a tasty bone about Russell Wilson now. This was very – he's played 4 total games against Kansas City, 2 with Seattle and 2 with Denver. He has a passer rating of 100.2, which is damn good for somebody against that defense with Spagnuolo blitzing you the whole time. 918 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in 4 games.
That's pretty solid. I think I'm liking Russell Wilson as a captain. I'm not gonna lie, even though the numbers
had two 3-touchdown games, a 2-touchdown game, and a 1-touchdown game. So, I mean, he had a 3-touchdown game against Kansas City last season in Denver with dog shit Nate Hackett.
And this is in Denver, I believe, as well.
No, this game is in.
It's in Kansas City. It's in Kansas City.
And so at Kansas City, he's had last game was he went 26 on 38 attempts for 222 yards and a TD with
How
1
much
interception.
Rushing?
This is passing information. Rushing stats. Hang on. He has 212 yards in his career, so he had 27 yards on 4 attempts last game against them. So he's never had more than 71 yards against them, but that was early
I'm
on.
only seeing them projected for like an 18-point team total, whereas Kansas City's projected for like a 28-point team total.
I mean, if they get out in front, as Kansas City seems to do, it's either only one way to run.
You got to pass at that point.
You got to win by getting different too, right? And getting different means playing different than the game is projected to be scripted. So if Kansas City's projected to be the favorite team with all the points, obviously that means everybody's going that route. That's where the public's going. If you change that to maybe Denver wins this game, or we talked about it in earlier seasons, make your lineups based on how the game could play. If the game could play slow, that means you want some defenses, running backs, and kickers. If you think it's going to be a shootout, put a bunch of passers, quarterbacks, a bunch of receivers and quarterbacks in there. And then if you want to get different and you think it's going to be a passing game, pick the underdog to win in a couple of your lineups. And if the underdog were to win, how would they win in a pass-heavy game? What would need to happen? Well, I think Sutton or Jeudy, maybe both, would need to go off, as well as Russell Wilson, in a pass-heavy game where Denver wins this game. And it's going to have to happen. I think Russell Wilson's also going to have to pick up yards himself running the ball in order for that to happen in that type of game script. So build around a game script where Denver wins and it's pass-heavy. Build around a game script where Denver wins and it's a slow defensive run type game. And then build around where Kansas City is scripted to win the way Vegas has it, because Vegas is usually right on a pass-heavy side and a run-heavy side. And then you have, if you're doing a 20 mags, do 5 of each. And that way you've attacked every part of the outcome of this game. It's got to play to one of them, and then maybe one of your 5 lineups that you've made is the optimal based on the way the game played out.
Yep.
Cash money. Bring home the bacon, and then shout out Ballers and motherfucking Breeze.
Yeah. And also, guys, and I know we talk heavily about DFS, but we seem to get a lot of questions about league fantasy. So if you pick up a win in season long, let us know, man, because we want to give you some dap. We want to let everybody know that, hey, you got some information from us. Don't be shy. We won't, if you won't want us to say, hey, this is your name, like whatever, just let us know though. Like if you did, and just let us know, hey, thanks guys. I played David Montgomery over freaking this guy this week, or I faded, as Phil says, full fade Trevor Lawrence every week since you've been talking this shit about him. And I've been streaming a quarterback like Brad, or streaming a kicker like Brad does, and that kicker came through, right? So don't feel like you're alone or anything. We want to know. So that because a win for you is a win for us, right? So that's what we like to hear. And
I can also give one more stat too that helps with this game before we shut it down. Denver's wide receiver 2 is in the optimal lineup 36% of the time. Kansas City's opponent, wide receiver 2, is in the optimal 36% of the time. It is directly correlated for the wide receiver 2 on Denver to be in the optimal lineup in the flex, and that would be Courtland Sutton. So it's basically telling you got to play Courtland Sutton in the flex at minimal, right? He got to be in the lineup at minimal. That is directly correlated. And then, Kansas City's wide receiver 3 is in the flex 48% of the time. It's not directly correlated with, Denver's opponent's history, but I'm just going to say 50% of the time. Their wide receiver 3
that wide receiver 3 is Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, they got Scantling. Yeah, they got Scantling at like number 1 right now. Yeah. So Sky Moore's 2, Toney is number 3. So is this our Toney game? I know I called him all season and being 100% right with him every time. I don't know this time. I don't know this time. So
maybe on Saturday we have Toney Alert 2.0. Toney Alert 2.0.
So we found Toney. Toney 2.0. We found him finally. He was missing. He was missing on the milk carton for a few weeks, but we found him out in the woods. He's safe.
He's safe. He might. I've watched some people's stuff before. As part of my research, I listen to other people. I look around and they think it could be a game for Toney. So, if Toney's the true number 3 and Kansas City's number 3 is in the optimal 50% of the time, that's out of 25 games, it's a fat number. The problem is, who the fuck's number 3 in their, team? Like right now, it says it's Kadarius Toney, but like week 1, he was their number 1. And I think all the way till this week, he was their number 1, even though he wasn't getting the ball. But who really is the number? I think he was brought there to be number 1. And then, like Cody said, is number 3 Rashee Rice? Is it Justin Watson?
Sure don't look like it. Sure don't look like it. Or maybe on the depth chart, maybe according to that number they assign you on the depth chart. But skill-wise, Rashee Rice looks like number 1.
Don't forget
my man is always open, or when he does catch the ball, he makes moves with the ball. So, I feel like Sky Moore is he was drafted to be a number 1. He ain't a number 1. I don't feel like it.
He hasn't this year. Last year I thought he was all right, but this year he's good.
Like Rashee Rice seems to be the hot new commodity, and but like don't sleep. We can't sleep on this Noah Gray, man. Like I'm done sleeping on Noah Gray. I think that he is finally. Andy Reid is done figured out. Okay, I've got someone with a 85% skill set of Travis Kelce with the command of the offense that Travis Kelce has. Why not give my man? Put Chelsea out here. We're running a 12 personnel, 2 tight end set, and some wide receivers on a running back. Why not just use him as a decoy? Like I just gonna kind of go back to Peyton Manning and Eli saying about Devontae Adams on Monday night. Devontae Adams was a decoy. Well, that seems to be what we're going to try. Let's try Travis Kelce out there. He's a decoy, especially with a bum foot or bum ankle.
Yeah.
Let's try him out there, and then
don't expect any yards after the catch with Kelce, and he's big for that, man. He gets a lot of his points from that, so you gotta temper your expectations. It'll be high owned.
Yes.
He's gonna be expensive as fuck. He's gonna destroy your lineups if you add him in there because of how much he is. You know, do with that what you will. I'm not fading him, but like I said, I think I'm gonna be like right there with ownership with him. But another interesting fact: Kansas City's players have been captained 72% of their time of their games. So, Kansas City captain tomorrow, boys. Do with that what you will. Get
girls,
with some of the
girls,
boys and girls. Do with that what you will.
I know I've seen some. I mean, my wife included. I've seen some other ladies that have said, "Hey,
Seema be cracking them."
We watched some show. Hey, don't sleep on Kathy. Kathy be cracking them
Kathy
too.
has
she
some W's too. Yeah. So
they our wives and girls get into the games just as much as we do. They just tell us to shut the hell up and stop talking so much. But I do know that they get. I mean, my cousin's wife, she popped in. She sent me a message on the Facebook. On Sunday morning, she's like, Cody, I got this. Can you take a look at my lineup? I need to know. Jamar Gibbs is questionable. I was like, all right. Or this was on Saturday night. She's like, I missed your show, but let me. Can you tell me? Can you take a look at my lineup? I was like, I got you. So I took a look at her lineup. Jamar Gibbs was questionable. She had a bunch of people on bye. She had George Pickens sitting out there. I was like, all right, I will call you or message you in the morning. At 10:45, I will message you when that injury report comes out. We need to figure out what we need to do with Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs was out. I said, plug and play George Pickens and let him rock. And what does he do? He rock and rolls, goes off. She won her damn game, and she's like, I'm in there. I need to catch up with y'all every week going forward. Yeah, so yeah, man. We're
here for the people.
We want to make everybody win.
There's another little interesting fact for DFS that the average optimal lineup salary used is $46,872. So the average, the amount of money they give you to spend is $50,000. In these showdowns with thousands of players in them, do not max your fucking salary, dude. I've said it before. You want to max your salary on like main slates because there's lots of games. So many ways people are different regardless. But in showdowns, do not max your salary. I promise you, if you max your salary and you win, it'll be very rare that you win. And when you do win, you'll probably win $1 because of the amount of people that did the same thing as you because it was possible to make that lineup. When the average people do, when they see that they've only spent $46,000, they'll take out their cheap player and look how they can get a more expensive player in there that looks better. It's more likely to hit. Like they might put Justin Ross in because I mentioned it, and they'll be like, well, I got $4,000 left over. I can put the kicker in or the defense. They'll take Justin Ross out, put the defense in, max the salary, and they get smoked. And they're like, damn, Justin Ross went off. Should have left him. I mean, do with that what you will.
In FanDuel, you have 60,000. There's another thing, 60,000 to play one less player, but the players are priced higher. So just for instance, and then like I know we always we do a lot of talking about DraftKings. That's what we heavily play, but we do play FanDuel. And for the fact of the matter is like MVP versus a flex, there's no price difference like there is in DraftKings, where your DraftKings player and is a captain gets 1.5 to points is 1.5 times the price also. So, but in FanDuel, it's one buy here, pay here, all the same price. So let's just say, for instance, Patrick Mahomes on DraftKings is going for this is a flex play, right? So we're just going to use a flex play number first. A flex play number for Patrick Mahomes, who you probably in this is a FanDuel. Probably you need to get Patrick Mahomes in your FanDuel lineups and get different, however you can get different, right? Because Patrick Mahomes is going to score touchdowns this way, sideways, up ways, down ways, right? So he is 18,000. He's cost the most of any player in tomorrow's game. In DraftKings, he's 12,800 in the flex, and he is actually 19,200 in the captain spot. So that's 7,000 more. So
I mean, QBs also are way more likely to be in the optimal on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings.
Yes,
because
you can fade it. You can full fade because if you have a wide receiver that gets catches and touchdowns that can outscore a quarterback, because his quarterback, and especially if they're just dinking and dunking down the field and they're not getting a whole lot of yak, and there's not a lot of yardage
because it's not PPR. So quarterbacks are going to get you a lot of points, even if people aren't scoring, because they're quarterbacks. They're throwing, they're running and shit. But I think Cody's onto something. You can get different on FanDuel by
you're getting half the point, full point. So
run a running back on FanDuel if you want to get different and try to separate yourself, because it is true that 90% of the time a quarterback has to be slotted in your optimal on FanDuel, but there are times where they're not. And Mahomes is going to be one of those ones where I got to have Mahomes. If you don't put Mahomes, do like Russell Wilson.
Edwards-Helaire is 6,500.
Run a double running back like Clyde Edwards-Helaire with Pacheco or with McKinnon. People aren't going to be doing that. It's crazy. But if you hit, there'd be a lot less people you're splitting with, and you're counting that money.
Yes. So anybody got any questions? I know we've cycled through a few reviewers here and there. I did want to give a couple shout outs. I put them in the chat. I have obviously our music from Marcus Aurelius at Soul Reacher Academy. And then I had some friends pop in that gave us a shout out on their podcast called the Dark Truth Podcast. It's just a couple guys, couple friends. They're in the car tinting business, but they just sit and just talk about topics, and that's why they're called the Dark Truth. They're tinting out negativity and stuff in the world. So they shouted out Ballers and Brees in their podcast tonight. So I wanted to shout them out in ours. Their link is in the chat. That's their Facebook Live, Jordan and the boys over there. So if nobody's got questions, we will see you guys on the flip
Saturday. And then may y'all crack them on DFS Army this week. Let's see y'all at the top. I want to see screenshots, people messaging me saying, I hit the millie or almost won the millie again. And that gets us excited over here that we're able to spread the positivity and help everybody else be successful in fantasy.
Yeah, let us know. We want to hear it. So that's it. We will see y'all guys Saturday. Peace.
Sayonara.
My headphones went dead on me.